I started it again because I'm an idiot.
It's okay. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to the Positively Negative Podcast,
Where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of positivity in an occasionally negative world.
I'm Dalio.
And I'm Team Humble, and we're glad you're here.
Yeah, boy.
That's better.
Boy.
That's better. So
Yay.
I've got a few confessions. Is that
Oh boy.
I in
I'm
up
ready.
to no. Only from the perspective of the podcast, dear. It wasn't going to be deep and meaningful. You just sounded like every woman in every relationship from like 20 years who gets taken to the same place on a Friday night for chicken wings and beer. You did. You just sounded like that woman who's like, yeah, all right, tell me again.
Okay, let's go.
Tell me that story again.
Out with
Yeah,
it already.
Tell me that story again. I'll
You
just
mean
go and get
from
my
the-
woodbines and the new pair of slippers.
Oh boy. Listen.
I'm listening. I'm always listening.
I
When
know.
do you think I'm not listening?
Well,
I
it
can't shut my
happens,
ears
but
off.
it's usually not when I'm saying listen. You are listening when I'm saying listening. Listen.
Okay.
So you were upgrading on the tech. You meant on the tech side. You have tech confessions. These are his tech confessions.
Yeah, I kind of just wanted a way to be able to just stop everything I was doing on one desktop and jump into a dedicated virtual machine that is super trimmed down, doesn't have loads of apps running. It just has like a browser, my VPN, and pretty much not much else. You know, just to be able to reboot. So I know it's completely fresh. I know the connection's good, and I know there's not any other programs running in the background. Like it's fire.
I love that.
Straight fire.
Perspective of being like those little self hacks, like different wallpaper on the desktop, different look to things. Okay, now I'm doing this. Done. You know.
Well, because it also opens everything up as it was, I can go straight into the web service we use to store the thing, and then it's all in the cloud at that point. Then I can reboot and interface with that, log into that particular thing, and do everything that I do in the browser. But I just know it just clears it out of my mind. I'm slowly realizing more and more that the more decentralized apps, life things I want to do, the more I realize that I really have to be partitioning that time. I stop there and I start. I stop there and I start. And I need those.
There's such an art to it, like self-managing your time, but then also managing your space. I mean, people hire like professional interior designers to make like a workspace functional. But I don't think I ever even understood the concept of like file management until maybe like a year or two ago. Like I was like in the fury of making something and I just had stuff all over the place. Like always. Right. So I think the more drilled down you can get into hyper segmentation of those blocks of your day, if it means like flipping over to a new instance of your machine to do a type of work, I love that. I think that's so smart.
Yeah, it just really helps.
Yeah.
More than anything, just knowing that I have that environment there. Now I need to obviously get them backed up and kind of create ones that are just, because I've taken a snapshot of where this is at. So really what I really need is to boot completely fresh and have that as a snapshot. And then if anything goes wrong with this, I can just redundancies, just time, mental redundancies.
Dimensions.
But also, I don't know if you have it, but like when you're sitting in front of your screen, you've got like a million tabs open, and then it's like I have to switch it up to media. Like that hard reset of like rebooting and then in a new environment, that it just clears me out.
Yeah,
literally. I'm like, oh, okay, right, I'm making now.
Like flushes the cache in your brain.
Well, yours is like that on Wednesdays, right? With food. I've been
definitely like that.
Retrieving streams of pictures from you today.
I just like Wednesday used to be a day that I would be like, oh, here we go. You can hear on a couple podcasts where I come in a huff, like all like flustered because of like the chaos momentum of it. But I break it up into 2 days now, and I do my shopping on one day, And then of course, because it's so like me to be like, I'm going to cook 18 portions of food plus go food shopping all before 9 a.m.
Yeah, that never
Like a
works for
psychopath.
anybody anywhere.
And that's
Yeah.
the problem. Like the problem with being a person like I am, and I think like you are as well, is that we can make it work. And so we never get the correct feedback of being like, of learning your lesson because we force it to work. So like I make these things work even though they're not what's good for me and they're not they're stressful and it's not like the most optimized way to do it just out of sheer force of Italian cooking will.
That's true.
So but I'm trying to take like a more moderate approach and make things that are easy and make things that I know I can like rely on that are cost effective, and just having having an analog day is like, oh, it's so nice. It's just so nice. Like I really
I've
hope that one day we have like a more of a 50-50 split between like analog days and like caring for chickens and farming things and then doing
well,
stuff.
I
You know
was
what I mean?
gonna get. I was gonna get into that. I think what I've noticed in the X amount of weeks you've been doing this, which is quite a long time now. I would say it's probably a couple of months, maybe
It's like
3 months,
13
2 months,
weeks or
3 months.
14 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think in one of those things that I've noticed is it's definitely affect your work. You know, like your work
My output is
is
like never been higher, I don't think, in terms of
right,
things that I make
right,
in a day. Yeah.
right. And I think it's high. I think it's higher because you know that you've got. I think your German brain. It's like 4 hours. I can go and get this. I don't have to think about what I want or what I can get, or if I need to jump in a car. Because that's a similar way to me, like rebooting the machine. Like you can get in the car and you can have something happen. At the store, or like see something. It's like, oh, I want to do that when I get back, or like just gets distracted by
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah.
So having the ability to eat food and then get straight back into it, especially with the demands of clients that are on a global footprint, it's
Yeah.
not like going into the 9 to 5, is it?
Yeah, and it's also I'm going to write about all of this in like the book that I'm planning, but it's also really what I didn't expect is that it really is helping me learn what foods that I react well to, because I'm eating the exact same thing for seven days in a row. And if I start feeling like I don't feel so good, or like my skin's breaking out, or it's like such a control group that I can really dial, because when you're in the chaos of life and you're just like, okay, I'm hungry, whatever, order something, do something, like eat something, and then you feel like crap.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
pinpoint it. It's just like you're in a whirlwind. So it's been like this 13-week trial of me being like, okay, what happens if I only eat vegetables, or if I only eat this? It's only for a week, so it's not going to kill me nutrition wise. I try to keep it varied, but it's really helping me learn like what type of foods that I react well to, and the ones that I don't feel as good. Because I don't think diets work. I think you just have to figure out what your your genetics and what your body reacts well to, and what is good for
I think
you.
I think that's the idea behind a diet. But the diet for me has always been, I've always felt restrained and restricted, and it's almost pushed me the opposite way of like, fuck you, diet. I want to eat what I want to eat because I can control what I want to fucking eat.
That's like the best part about meal.
Diets are marketed wrong, completely marketed wrong. They're completely like misshapen. Like it's a bit like tax, right? I feel like tax is completely like sold to people the wrong way. It should be an incentive that you strive to pay.
You're right.
Because then there's a benefit to the local area in which you live, which the local authority,
Right. Well,
so many things that I want to see in the world. Now we've got decentralized platforms. I want to see that middleman or middle team or meeting behind closed doors that decides that money coming in.
Sure.
I want that group of people to be like, well, this area needs this. What does the whole of my street think about this? You know what I mean?
The thing, and like if you think of the way that you said it is like perfect, because it's so reversed. It's usually, here's what your body needs, now these are the meals you're allowed to have. Where I kind of go in the reverse and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I super in the mood for this week? All right, it's something with strawberries, and then I look at recipes and then I tweak the recipe just to fit like what the goals that I'm trying to hit, like in terms of calories and protein and things like that. So I since I can operate now from like a craving perspective, I don't ever feel like restricted. because I'm like, oh my God, like I totally want to eat this. Okay, well, if you want to eat this, this is how you make it, and this is how much of it you can have. And like, okay, cool. Like if it's gonna be lemon cupcakes, I'll find a healthy way to make lemon cupcakes and I'll have the correct
Mm.
portion for me. So it's not like here's the 6 recipes you can eat. Have that on free play for the rest of your life before you want to jump off a bridge.
Sounds so limiting. So, like knowing what you're going to get in life when it comes to food is like, hot. You might as well just remove food from the whole equation. The excitement of food is like when you have something that is what you've always had, but like at its best,
Yeah.
and the surprise of that,
Yeah.
that like sparks conversation, dialogue, like brings back memories, like it's an activator, right?
Real.
It shouldn't be a source of like disdain. It should always be an excitement,
Right.
or it always should be functional.
Because
if it's not exciting, it should always be fun.
yeah, that's the thing. And if it's not going to be that whole like Italian cultural memory thing of food and sharing it and cooking for other people, which like, is like one of my joys in life, like then just give me a pill and let's not even do it. Like, let's just do the Soylent thing and let's not even think about it. Like I can't do the middle ground. You know what I mean? Like if we're not going to treat food the way that I think we're supposed to, then
you just gave me I don't know if I had a future flash or what, but I had just like this moment where I saw the sponsorship of a drop ship like battle royale inside of a cage with Soylent written on the side of it.
Gosh. Well,
like think about it, right? We are already playing battle royale games. It won't be that different. It won't be that difficult to go in the Olympic Games in 2060 to jump from battle royale all the way through to every country in the world playing it and watching it and streaming it. You know what I mean? And then sponsored by Soylent, and you're in there for like a week, and you have to like survive there. And
man, I mean, at least
in some ways, we're already there.
I know. So I'm like, at least the grocery stores won't be crowded. I'll just be out. I'll take advantage of the fact that everyone's inside and actually leave the house then. Yeah. But speaking of dystopian futures, geez,
yes,
Dale, I went through our Flipboard. We have a positively negative Flipboard. If you don't know about that, I'm sure we'll link it somewhere. I honestly forget what the URL is. And you're actually really good about adding things to it. I don't use Flipboard on the daily. But I was like, let me go through, and I personally hadn't looked at it for a while, and I just picked out like a couple things that I kind of wanted to like run by you and talk about, if that's cool.
Yeah, I'm always putting stuff in there. I am always things that like really hit me.
And I think we originally did it so that we would have topics for the podcast, and I'm sure that we could do a whole podcast on just one of these, but like I really want to go through 2 of them kind of quick and then take some time on the last one, because I think the last one's going to be kind of fun. But the first one, and like it's so good because based on like if you gave me a selection of like 150 articles and told me that you had like handpicked 50 of them, I would have been able to pick them out. Like this one, but for example, for the title is Rare Moss Contains Marijuana-like Compound with Potentially Superior Medicinal Effects. Like if that's not a D-mouse title of an article, I don't know what is. So there's apparently, did you end up reading this one all the way through?
No, I only ever put them in there so I can like catch up them when I've got a free period. Yeah.
So there's apparently like the title says, there's a moss that they've found that it's actually called the liverwort plant, called Radula parotidi is like the Latin for it, and it has a natural compound that's extremely similar to THC. And I don't know, it kind of made me think like, because we're simultaneously destroying the world, the environment, but we're also finding these compounds that are in things that are similar to other things that we know. Like, do you think that we're just going to get to a point where everything is just going to be synthesized? Like it's just going to be like,
1000%.
we're just going to, it's like going to be 3D printing, but on a molecular level. Like we're just going to figure out what makes THC, or what makes CBD. And then we'll just like make it, because everything's made of carbon anyway, right?
Yeah, everything will be synthesized. I saw the other day that they've actually, and I don't know if this comes from like reverse analyzing CRISPR, the technology in terms of like destroying cancer cells or whatever, but they've supposedly found the kill switch of the actual RNA of the, it's not the molecule, what do you call it, the protein of cancer, so they can actually send it this kill switch to almost like shut it down. So I think we still got a long way to go to map everything. There are so many like DNA strands in everything on planet Earth, and we just don't have the computing power to understand it all. I think we're trying to build the computing power, but I think we'll end up just using all of the resources and all the power to try and find that like answer to the number 42 question. It's kind of weird, really, is that it's interesting what keeps humans going, right? This like almost futile notion that by knowing how something works, that we're going to then take care of it. Because so far, that hasn't been proven to be correct to me from what I've seen of the planet. Like from what I mean, yesterday, and it still triggers me today, and I think it will still keep triggering me from every decision I make from now on, is that since 1970s, 60% of the world's wildlife has been killed off since the 1970s.
Yeah.
60%. Yeah. That's staggering amount of
30, 40
loss.
years, right?
Yeah,
half
30, 40
of it
years.
gone.
So if we talk about acceleration, right? If we talk about acceleration of that, it's going to get faster and cascade quicker. And we have another bunch of wildlife kill off and like bees kill off and all that sort of stuff. Then everything will have to be synthetic.
Well, that's the thing.
Because they will know there won't be anything in the world
to produce,
because the food chains that we, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and the problem with synthesized is it's going to be crude. It's not going to be everything we've ever seen with sci-fi and everything we've ever seen in a film where, like, you know, they discover a bottle of whiskey from like 300 years ago. It's like, oh my God, this is incredible. Look at the maturity in it, and you know, the cheese, or right. Like, I think this pursuit of knowledge is also bringing us a massive veil of the ordinary.
Not even ordinary, like in terms of sentimentality, but that would require in order for us to replace what Mother Nature gives us, like on a daily basis through, like, let's just say fruits, vegetables, the things that we know are good for us. We don't even understand or know the 360 of, like, take a tomato, of all of the enzymes and all the things that are good for us in our body and what it does in the body. So if we're just isolating things and be like, oh yeah, this is just the tomato pill, it does this, 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 and this, like, that presumes that we have this 360 view of all of these things that and what they do for our bodies, and I don't think we understand that. I don't think we're anywhere close to understanding that. Like, don't. Every day, this, like, new things that come out that are like, apple cider vinegar is good for your digestion, or this is good for this, and they're finding that there's a cancer fighting, you know, protein in this plant. So, like, if we were to wake up tomorrow and not have plants, and then say, okay, well, let's just print all the plants, or like let's just take out the core vitamins and minerals and boil it down to a pill. I don't think we have enough even knowledge to begin doing it justice to even replace it. Do you know what I mean?
But here's a sad thing about life, though, is that you can take a bunch of engineers and a bunch of scientists and a bunch of people who are like, oh, we've got this and we can do this, it can revolutionize everything. But you've also got the opposite of people who don't want those things to ever change because they've built an industry around it. So we're kind of in this futile trap where it's like push and pull. It's like the ultimate game of, like, tug of war, you know, like we've got a number of people on one side who are pulling for change and the other people are like, no, don't change anything because it's worked so far.
Yeah, except it hasn't.
You know, and then you got like presidents at the top of the chain sort of saying, oh, well, you know, if it's 7 degrees, if it's going to be 7 degrees hotter, we might as well just go with it. It's like, you know, it's kind of like staggering to me that you wouldn't even try
Right.
to see what that looks like. Or
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think maybe it brings up this like really interesting point, because I feel like from the dawn of humankind, but really from the beginning of humans being on this earth, it's always been about survival. Like, how are we going to survive? First, what are the first problems? Things are trying to eat us. The elements are trying to kill us. Okay, let's take care of that. Now, now we're going to industrialize that. Now the industrial revolution is like now, in the cloud and in the tech revolution. And it's so funny that I think people think that we're farther than we've ever been from extinction because we're so established as a species. But I think we're now on the other side, where we've pushed the earth so far that now we're on the opposite brink of extinction. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've engineered ourselves into now having to be in a survivalistic mindset all over again because we didn't stop when we probably should have. Do you know what I mean? So
sure, but we would have never. Human nature never stops because it's always evolving. You see, there's one absolute guarantee, which we will never have any control over. And that is that Mother Nature will always be all right.
With or without us.
Right.
For sure.
On this planet. It doesn't matter. We're irrelevant to the whole, like, ecological point. Like, this planet in 300 years' time could be full of volcanoes and just lava, and none of us here, or like above or below it or elsewhere. Yeah. People still, like, Elon Musk still tweeting, "Go fuck yourself, sec. Like, you should have invested in me when you had the chance," from Mars, maybe. Who knows? Like, so you got to be a realist. You got to be a realist. I think it's like, what have I got? How can I optimize it? How can I make the most of it? How can I take what technologies are out there at a local level to me, and how can I like apply that to my own life? Like the growing stuff to me is fascinating. So look, if there's a moss out there that gets me high as fuck, then sure, I'll grow moss.
So that's the last thing that I wanted to add about this was that they are finding that it has so a lot of times, if people don't know, like, there's THC and there's CBD, and CBD is what's actually is fully legal in a lot of places where THC is not legal, because THC is what's associated with like the psychedelic effects. But there are a lot of medicinal benefits to the CBD. But this has the synthetic, or not synthetic, but a adjacent form of THC, but actually doesn't even have the psychoactive effects. So it's interesting because they're finding that this could be kind of like the missing piece that you don't get from the CBD, that you're missing in the CBD because they want to take away the psychoactive components. This has the THC, but it actually doesn't even get you high. But it's got they're finding that there are benefits to that side as well without the psychoactive potency, they're saying. So,
well, at the end of the day, you got to think about what moss does, right? As far as I know it to be with moss, like, you need moss to be breaking down to turn into soil, mulch with all the bugs and shit that are eating and having wars in there and eating each other, for the ground to like flourish, for the trees to grow, or plants or whatever's in there. So, like, I would not be surprised if moss is the OG.
Well, yeah, it's like the mycelium.
THC.
Oh,
OG
baby!
THC,
It's true that they found moss organisms that go literally, like, they're connected for like continents. Yeah, because they're all one root system, and so they can like literally snake through like an entire continent and be the same moss plant, like the same. I love that.
That's why that Star Trek
with the
thing
mycelium
was so genius.
mushrooms. Yeah,
the mycelium network of the universe it makes sense. Like, even in the like emptiness of space, it makes sense on a.
What's so funny is like everything, level. The biggest parts of the universe and the smallest parts of the universe are all like mirror each other. Like, our bodies are made up of different systems. Like, forests are made up of different systems there are cleaning parts. There are, there's like the skin of the earth. There are parts that are liquid. Like, we're all kind of like microcosms of the next biggest thing above us. I feel like. I know that sounds so. I swear I haven't had any THC or.
Baba, I'm telling you, 9 months ago, 9 months ago, Fortnite appeared, and now ravens can build shit. I'm just saying.
Can we talk? Let's skip the second thing. The second thing I wanted to talk about was that just real fast, and let's not even talk about it. I'm just going to drop it and we'll walk away. But the owner of the Chinese company that owns TikTok, called ByteDance, is now the world's most valuable startup. TikTok is like 75 billion. And Uber is at 72 billion. So just so you know, like your kids who are just making like lip sync videos are doing it for like a $72 billion company. And that is like a massive app that came out of nowhere. I didn't see it coming at all, but I'm old, so maybe I wouldn't have. I thought that was interesting. Those numbers blow my mind. What were you saying about the 9 months ago? Oh yeah, ravens. Not only do they use tools, which is like scientific community is always real jazz when we're like, look, they can use tools. Like, it's so impressive. They have the intelligence of a 3-year-old. You're like, oh, that's dope. Now they're finding that ravens are combining multiple tools to make tools. Like, they're taking pieces of other things to make a tool to then make something else, or to then, forage for food or get at bugs and stuff. Like, if that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know. Maybe they're getting smarter because they know that they're going to have to like outlive us and outlive the crap that we're doing to the to like the Did you see that one where the seal just threw an octopus at a guy, like so intentionally?
Smacked him with it.
It was like so premeditated. I was like, oh, like animals are getting sick of our shit.
I feel
like they really are.
I feel like they were both. I feel like they were both in it together. I do. I feel like the octopus was like, just lift me up there. I've got a longer arm than you.
I don't know if you saw this, but I retweeted a tweet from Neil deGrasse Tyson today, and he was like, this is like the highest shit I've ever heard. But he was like, if an octopus just wanted to lock you in a room, all he'd have to do is create a door with 3 knobs. And I was like, fuck! Like, you ever think about... I know, isn't that... Like, it actually scared me on a real level. Like, octopi, they're incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Like, we ain't what we think we are just because we got podcasts and Fortnite.
Right.
But since we're talking about, like, climate change and stuff, one of these articles that you saved was how can you fight climate change when the government won't? And the article itself left a little bit to be desired, but it actually got me going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. The summary of the article is basically like, and I'm sure it was written for Americans, because it was like, when your government doesn't give a damn and your own president won't even like acknowledge climate change, like what are you supposed to do? Like, what can you even do? So a lot of it was centered around taking control and figuring out what your own carbon footprint is, figuring that out and just changing things. I know we talk on the other podcast about supporting companies who have who practice, carbon neutral or carbon deficient like practices, and supporting companies that are doing things to recycle ocean plastic and stuff like that. But aside from that, because I'm not really into the consumerism side of that too much, I thought it would be cool if we took a test to figure out what our ecological footprint was and just like kind of go through the questions. So because of that article, I found on earthday.org, there is a global footprint network quiz that you can step through. So I love quizzes. Oh my God. I know, it's like such a girl thing to love quizzes, like in magazines and stuff. Okay. So the first one is food. How often do you eat animal-based products? So it goes from never to very often.
Okay.
Never would be vegan. Infrequently would be eggs, dairy, no meat, vegetarian. Occasionally would be mostly veggies, but you eat eggs and dairy.
I think mine will be above the average.
Well, do you have meat still daily? I don't think you have meat daily. So you'd be about where I'm at, where it's balanced meat, veggies, meat a few times a week, eggs, dairy. Okay, so that would be me at the moment as well. There's also, you can add details to improve accuracy, like how often you eat beef and lamb. We won't go into that, but like if you're really doing it at home and you really want to know, they're actually broken down by what types of meat you eat, which I think is really cool. How Yeah, exactly.
Well, they're biggest
How much of
pollutants
the
anyway, aren't
food that you eat is unprocessed, unpackaged, or organically grown by percentage? I know it's tough.
Maybe
All right.
30%.
I
I'd
would
say
say
30%
personally
at the
for me, I
moment.
think maybe about half just because I have the meal prep on lock, but I'll put somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. Okay.
which housing best describes your home? Freestanding, no running water, freestanding, running water, multi story apartment, duplex, row house, building with 2 or 4 housing units, or luxury condominium.
Well, the one with no running
I'll
water for a
just go
start.
based on your answers. Yeah,
We don't
exactly.
have to put specifics, but
What
yeah.
material is your house constructed with? Straw, bamboo, wood. Okay.
Wood.
Adobe. I want to live in an Adobe hut. Hell yeah.
Moss. It's
I
made
have a
from
mushroom I live in. How
I smoke my house.
Oh my gosh. Okay. How many people live in your household? Yep. 1 or 2.
One.
What is the size of your home? I'm going to put as tiny as possible. That would be 50 square feet is the smallest that they have. Do you have electricity in your home? Yes. And then how energy efficient is your home? So
I would say quite
it
energy
very
efficient.
the most inefficient says poor insulation, few LED lamps, heating, cooling systems used often. That's very inefficient. And then very efficient would be passive heating, cooling, advanced temperature control and ventilation, low electricity use.
I would say it's probably I probably use a lot
Okay.
less than your average house, I would think. I've got like a super efficient computer. I use LED lighting and my blown air
So
heater uses
I'm
very
going to
little
put, yeah,
energy.
above
Although
average, well
very little.
insulated, efficient lighting and appliances, careful use. Okay, we're about halfway done, so it's not that long of a quiz. Housing. What percentage of your home's electricity comes from renewable sources?
It's
Mm.
a really good question actually. I don't know. I mean at one point they were gonna do like a whole massive area of solar panels. So I think they're on like a big business feed thing. So probably
Okay,
I
we'll put
honestly
about
don't know the
half to
answer to
just
that.
be safe. There's a little fact here that says about 14% of global primary energy consumption came from renewable hydro and nuclear in 2016, according to BP Statistical Review of World Energy. So that's just like a little fact about how we're only using 14% globally of renewable sources. Okay. Compared to your neighbors, how much
That's
trash
crazy.
do you generate? So I wouldn't go based on your neighbors necessarily, but maybe an average like suburb household, I would say you produce much less trash, right? You
Yeah.
can add details
Yeah,
to
yeah,
this
for
one in
sure, yeah.
terms of it breaks it down by household appliances, electronics, books, papers, magazines, paper, plastic, things like that. So you can really dial that down.
That's,
How far do you
mm,
travel by car or motorcycle each week? Yeah.
I would say I've cut down on that massively, not just because of the transportation situation, but I would think in general, like I've cut that using a car down. It's funny how
Mm,
you change like the way you want to like get about. But I use a lot of public transport, but I would also use a like a
sure.
electric bike or electric car. That's the next big
So in
thing for
turn,
me. So
yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
say a lot less.
they don't have a place for buses here. I'm sure buses are obviously one of the more, even though the bus isn't green, it's carrying a mass of people. So because you don't use
Right.
a car or motorcycle just on your own, I'm just going to leave those as 0. How far do you
Okay.
travel on public transportation each week? Oh, there we go. There's the public transportation one. So you want to give do you have a rough guesstimate in miles per week that you go?
Um, I would say maybe 20 miles at the minute. At the minute.
There's also details of this one. Also, it adds train if you travel by train. How many hours do you fly each year? Yeah, it's a tough out. Yeah,
That's a
that's
tough
a
one.
tough
How many
average.
hours? Well, I would say if we just take one, let's say 2 trips a year, and it's about 14 hours. I would say 28 hours.
Okay.
Let's say 30 hours to round it up for like 2 flights a
Sure.
year. I mean, I know it hasn't been that, but like
Right.
if I had the resources, it would be.
Okay. All right. Now there's like a nice, cute little animation of space, and it looks like things are. It's generating some type of result. It's processing. It's computing. So
It's
yeah, I think
computing.
even if you don't have the answers to those 100%, just knowing what the criteria are, it helps you think about what those areas. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm less concerned about it being hyper accurate and knowing what the score is, and then taking the score down. But like, what are the things that go into? Oh no, this is this is so our
We're bad people.
podcast. Site under maintenance will be back soon.
Jesus Christ. Even
Yep.
working out your footprint
Yep.
is
Wow.
unsustainable.
It could not have been any like we couldn't have scripted that if we wanted to. Positively negative, everybody.
That's there you go. Yeah, we were positively trying to fix our sustainability footprint, and
Wow.
then negatively the website went down. And
That's
that brings me back to an important point, right? Is that you can have all the data in the world, right? You can make all the better decisions in the world, but the problem is that it's always moving on, right? Everything's always moving on, and even if you get all those things in place, even if you become this like perfect sustainable person, like if the infrastructure around supporting you is failing, then it's incredibly difficult to maintain that for any length of time anyway. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying fight for it and aim for it and adapt to it.
You
But I
can't
think
rely
you've
on
always got to be cognitive about the result. No, you can't rely on the environment. You can't rely on infrastructure. You can't rely on infrastructure in terms of people saying to you, "Oh, like." I was reading something today about a place called Summerland, because it was a big report about when we had this terrible like fire with Grenfell towers in London, and the whole thing burnt down and so many hundreds of people died. Or we've had these like buildings since the 60s with terrible insulation, asbestos and all sorts of stuff. We had them in schools and we had to remove it all and everything. And like that's one thing that I really can't abide by, is when people launch these big, massive, expensive like pieces of artwork buildings and art deco, and it's a buzz and there's hype. The second thing that goes through my mind, apart from wow, that's amazing, the second thing is, where's the money to maintain this? Because I always feel like the infrastructure money seems to vanish. Like the people who get given the contracts to maintain it for 20, 25 years, 30 years, like now we're starting to see those things falling apart, like with the high streets falling apart, the government's like just chucking a bunch more money at like trying to maintain, put a sticking plaster over it. And where does that money come from? Like we seem to magic these things out of the air, but I can't get too annoyed about it. I don't get too stressed about it. I've kind of put a line underneath a lot of it. It's like I now kind of try and maneuver around
if you expect
what
it to
I do
fail,
have access to, rather than
it sounds like a negative outlook. But if you expect it to fail, then it's not about like, oh, I don't want to be disappointed. It's about living your life that you have backups. Like,
there's also an opportunity in that for me. Like if I'm always thinking, well, this kind of fall apart. Like, I'll give you a perfect example. When I lived in a city and I saw the potential of the city, and I walked through the city late at night and in the mornings and got to know the people in the different shops and coffee shops and places. And, could see that what makes that city work is the people's willingness to like be in that city and work that crowd and that audience of people passing through, tourists, etc. And like a city can keep you
Mm.
there because you're kind of part of the fabric of it. And when you're out of sync from it, like people know because you're so, connected together. So I see there's opportunities there. Like whenever something's failing, there's an opportunity to be like, oh, we should, club together, put some money together. I've seen businesses in cities see something that they've loved for years, and then the people's run out of money, and then they've jumped in there and built a second coffee shop, like because they know they can do it. So I think there's opportunity in that. My issue is that how the money is
Well,
spent,
hopefully
where the money's from,
blockchains
how
like
it's
coming
spent,
online
what's the
will
longevity.
just having that information more transparent and having the expectation for transparency, just by people. I think that no one's going to just become transparent out of the goodness of their heart. It's going to have to come from an expectation from regular people, from people who vote people into office, from taxpayers, just the regular normies of the world. I think en masse, we're all going to have to start having that expectation of transparency. And that's the only way we're going to get it, is to kind of demand for it. Yeah.
Everybody's got to do their bit. Everybody's got to do that. We can't be just keyboard warriors being annoyed and carrying our grouchiness, grumpiness with us and being like it's somebody else's problem.
Of that's Trump getting on. Sorry, I'm just to be petty for a second. I've never seen.
Yeah,
if you haven't seen it, it's just this video of him getting onto his. I guess it was Air Force One or his private plane to go wherever he needs to go, and he's got an umbrella, a huge black umbrella. And he like peeks his head through the door, realizes that the umbrella is not going to fit, and just drops it behind him and walks into the airplane. And I was like, and it sounds like nitpicky, and I get that people like are really petty when it comes to him, and I get that, but I've never seen a better illustration of it's somebody else's problem than that moment. Like it was just like I couldn't believe it. It was like littering an entire umbrella. An open umbrella, just being like, whatever. To have that type of brain, like that's it seemed like it was like watching something so foreign. I couldn't even like explain how strange it was, like to just have that headspace. And I think people who are business people have that on a micro level because they realize that they can't do everything on their own, and they get used to delegating. And maybe part of it is having that type of mindset of like, well, this is what I pay people for because I can't, there are not enough hours in the day for me to handle this. I'm not in any way defending Trump, but like,
well, maybe that's why our budgets are messed up. Then, if we're paying people to press the button to unfold our trolley, we've got a problem.
Payroll, sweet Lord, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I turn up for an hour a week.
Get your thumbs insured for like $100,000 each, just
show you how to do it,
because that's your livelihood.
Jesus Christ! I mean, I saw something the other day similar to that to do with these the Air Force. The Air Force had been like billing these chrome teapots at like $1,500 a piece, and people are like, "How is?" No, in America,
the American Air Force. That made American me think it was the UK.
These teapots are I don't know who's spending a defense budget on a teapot, but I'm pretty sure you can't fight with them. Like if that's what your new weaponry situation is, you're going to just like charge the Russian army with teapots. I don't know. Just somebody somewhere is just adjusting figures on an Excel spreadsheet, which is then owned by Google, which is run on servers that are copied by the Chinese. It's a mess, isn't it?
So there we go.
So I think you'd be better. I think you'd be better off wrapping yourself in moss and putting yourself on the back of a shark and just making a YouTube.
It's all so much, and I think that you are one of the few people that I relate to on the level of like, I sometimes feel like I am aware of everything happening all of the time on the most like exactly the way we just explained it. To like the most minute level of being like, I just drank a sip of water. The water's going into my molecules. My molecules are becoming hydrated. Like it's hard. It's also, Yeah,
no, but
Yeah.
No, but we get there fast. We get there fast though. We get there fast, and that's important. That's important when we kind of micro delegate each other, unconsciously with each other about certain things, then we get a lot done and we get to where we want to
Yeah,
be and
you're
we get
right.
to get
Because
back
I
out
have a
of that
very
headspace
efficient
and
route
feel,
to vent a frustration with you,
you know,
because you're likely already frustrated about it and know what it is. So we almost have this like shorthand exchange of like, whatever. Then
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
I'm a type of person who needs to vocalize things I'm frustrated about, and then I can move.
The amount of times you've walked out of a 10-minute shop and you've paused outside of the automatic open sliding doors, and I know that pause means how are you feeling about going to the chip shop right now and having a fish and chips.
Sometimes it's even a look.
Like the amount of times that I've like caught up with you because I've been like dawdling in the shop, like spaced out, wondering if we've paid yet. And then you're there standing on the step. You could have carried on walking. You could have like putting money away in your wallet, but you've turned around, you've looked at me, and it's like
Yeah.
it's like
And it's so
encryption.
good.
It's
It's
like
really good
code.
to like, I'm so thankful to have that with somebody, but it's also it's like, it's almost like the meal prep of emotions processing because it's just already sorted out. And that's also why I feel like it comes across as like maybe arrogant or maybe unsympathetic or uncaring, but I just so don't care about so many things in life, because I feel like and
Yeah.
it's not that I care
Mm.
less. I feel like in a lot of ways I care more, or about more things and more deeply about those things than a lot of people. But I just don't care about so many things
It
in
would drive
life.
you to insanity if you. Yeah.
I'm busy caring about other stuff.
Well, the
I
thing
don't
is,
know.
it's
It's
good.
just a priority
To
change.
be
Like when somebody says, or a family member, "Oh, did you hear about so and so and they got this, or this person did that, or did you hear what happened on the news?" I'm like, I could not care less. Like I physically don't have space in my brain or in my heart or my emotions or my processing power to even deal with it. I'm like blank when people say stuff like that to me. I'm like, am I supposed to have an opinion about it?
I think that's why I like Flipboard so much, is because it's like I can put things in there which like gel with me. It's like, okay, that's like informative, or it kind of like sparks or ruffles my feathers a little bit. I see the same old like mistakes being repeated over and over again, and I can see where the cracks are, and I can see the cracks getting wider. And I'm not saying that you should. I don't think we're unconscious people. I think I think we're so conscious that, if we have the resources, the inclination, the talent, the skill, the ability, the resources, we're always there. We're always there to bat, right? The problem is with being you're a mystical cat and I'm a ground sign. The problem with us is that we don't know how to limit that. We don't have like a sprinkler system on a timer. Like there is no Nest
Oh,
management
I just
system
feel
that's
like I'm
capable of
holding
looking
on for
after
dear
us,
life with some days, and
right?
maybe that's part of why I'm so regimented and so structured with outward things, because they're kind of my, like I kind of envision like this crazy, tumultuous sea, and there are like these rocks. Like my day is like hopping from rock to rock to rock, of being like, okay, this is my 2 hour chunk. Bang, that's something to like anchor my focus and my intention toward, or like anchor, okay, now I'm meal prepping, or now I'm doing this. I think I do a lot of things on a very, what would seem like a very OCD, like regimented German scale, but I think it's the only thing that reins in like the rest of the mysticism and the like the swirl of everything. You know what I mean? Like I need to have those anchor points.
Right,
So yeah.
right. You just give me a great idea to make some new mod banners
Oh
from
man. Oh
Jason and the
uh,
Argonauts.
uh,
You just give me, no, but you just give me an idea. Like when you were talking, for some reason I was thinking of modding, and I was just thinking of like the head of Medusa, like how having
so
that
I
in the
didn't
banner
give you
and
the
like
idea. You were
freezing
just having
the
an
object.
independent thought while I was rambling.
Well, I'm sorry for being a human being on planet Earth as well. Like, I mean,
I don't
I mean,
want
if you can
Moss
get the
Phil. I don't
synthetic
want
version of me,
him.
then you should go
I
for
don't
it.
want him. Oh my gosh, I can see it on
Boss
Steam
man
Hunt
Phil.
now. Lost boyfriend. He's smart, connected. He's
That's
he's
scary.
to your Fitbit. Oh no,
And you'll never run out of
I
mushrooms.
don't like it.
Oh my god. Oh, that's
True.
kind of
It's
scary.
all
Black
true.
Mirror scares me because it's all possible. It's all possible. Like all real, all possible is happening to us every single day. I'm glad we have like some conduit to, you know, like we're literally going through a piece of glass fiber underneath the ocean right now. That's staggering. I mean, like, I have to say this, out of all the things that like get negative about the world, like we have done some incredible things to connect each other and just ride it out together, even though like we're far apart, we're also really close.
I know.
I mean, how incredible is that to bounce light down a piece of glass, like fine glass tube, and still be able to hear in real time? I mean, that's
like,
just
these headphones.
staggering.
Like it really does feel
amounts
like
of like
it does feel like you're close, and that makes me feel nice. I don't know how people did it before fiber. Like, yeah.
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. Like you would literally be making your own like Technotronic remix every phone call
per minute. I mean, I'm just saying, like anything long distance is just more possible now than it ever has been, because at least I can see your face once in a while. Like, you know, we have stuff like this. It's just wild.
I mean, we talk long distance, but when you're building like tunnels that you can get from fucking one side of the country to another, like going from, imagine going from New York to LA in 30 minutes. I mean, that
we should talk about it at one point. But I think like time is obviously going to be the new currency, and anything that allows you to save time is going to be reserved for the extremely, extremely rich. I personally, I hope I'm wrong.
Incorrect in terms of yes, you're right, but you're also wrong in the sense of who's going to provide those things. You need the service industry. You need people to be providing those services. Every person, pretty much, I would say 80% of people that were on these brand new trains in Dubai, which by the way was like traveling across the surface of fucking Mars. It was wild. Was an immigrant. Because the immigrant, you will never see a sheikh on that train. A sheikh will never use that train. They're driving fucking V8 Bugattis around. They don't care about this modernization. It's the migrants are getting from one side of the city to another side of the city because they're doing their morning job and their lunchtime job, and then they're working in the hotel at night. They're the ones who are going to be using these super fast transports, and the hotel change and the brands.
I hope so. And I hope it brings the baseline down for everyone. Like if that means that flights get cheaper or flights get more efficient, then fine. Do you know what I mean? Like I just hope it's an all boats rise type of a thing. Because I'd like to go places fast. I'd like to not sit on a plane for 6 hours. If we could get that down to, you know, an hour and a half or 2 hours. I would appreciate that very much. It's a taxing. I wonder what jet lag will be like though when your body moves that fast. Like I'm more concerned about how your body will be like, where am I?
I think I'm not sure how it'll work, but I presume they're pressurized in some way, and I don't know how your body reacts to 700 mile an hour for 40 minutes. But I'm presuming as long as they can keep my molecules in a suitable
rearrange
format,
them in
then,
the right way.
you know, I'd be down to try it. But it's kind of fascinating to me, the idea, the notion of going that far distance, and how is it going to change people? Like you already automatically feel change when you travel on a plane for so many hours, like overnight, sleeping, lights off. Imagine being able to like get up in the morning and be like, I'll see you in a bit for lunch, like half an hour, like literally having breakfast in New York, and then bang, I'm having sunshine, going from like stormy weather to sunshine. Like there's something going to fundamentally change the human condition when we remove.
That's the case, and I also hope that accelerates our ability to reverse some of the bullshit that we have kind of caused on this planet. Because if we're able to work better, faster, more efficiently together, I'm hoping that that's just an accelerator for good ideas and not bad ideas. All
And we'll
right.
leave it on that. I think that's a good way to end it. I think that's a good way to end it today.
Oh, good.
Thank you for
This is
spending
my
time with me again today,
54 minutes
Biza.
and 31 seconds of the day. Oh, baby.
That's not what you told me last week. Oh!
Thanks for spending time with us today.
Subscribe with Pocket Casts and get notified right away.
And if you use Anchor FM, please feel free to call in and leave us a message. We'll try to reply in our next cast.
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can now go to anchor.fm/positive and click on the button.
And if you'd like to hang out with us in our Discord, there's a link in that page as well.
Stay positive, and we'll speak to you soon.